Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me a good friend of mine, Eric Coffin. Eric is the editor of the HRA, the Hard Rock Analyst, and a newsletter that's been in existence for quite some time. He and his late brother David started the newsletter. It's an excellent newsletter. David really was sorely missed for sure, but Eric has picked up the letter and hasn't. I don't think anything has been. Well, it's not true to say nothing's been lost, but Eric has really picked it up and has really stepped it up and has really performed extremely well. I hear nothing but compliments from people in the industry for really working extremely hard under very adverse conditions. Not only did he lose his partner and brother, but also his wife passed away as well not long after that. And then Eric raised two really beautiful children now, two kids that I've learned to know at least superficially, and children that are doing very, very well. So I have the highest regards for Eric and his ability to hang in there when times were really difficult. A lot of lesser mortals would have stepped aside and probably become alcoholics or dropped out in one way or another, but Eric has got that tough fortitude, and I guess you need it for this markets that we've been in, and the gold markets, the junior exploration markets are really tough. But Eric has done extremely well and continues an excellent newsletter. And I should mention right away that if you go to Eric's website, you can actually sign up for a report that is going to deal with what I want to talk to Eric about today. That's hraadvisory.com. Go there, just put your name and email in the box there, and you can get Eric's report on 5 companies that he believes have excellent exploration potential, or at least drill results could drive those stocks higher in this bull market that we're in again. So it's really, as Eric said, we're in a bull market, baby. So thanks for joining me, Eric. I'm glad you could be with me today.
Thanks for inviting me and saying all the nice things. And it was great to see you up in Vancouver. Jay did a fabulous job at the Metal Investors Forum. He was a big hit there. And you're going to have to get up to Vancouver more often for these things.
Well, you twist my arm, Eric. I mean, Vancouver it's a tough place to go to, right? No, it's beautiful. Yeah. You did. I should tell my listeners. We had Eric on along with Brent Cook. We had a couple of other newsletter writers on here before the show, and it was well beyond my expectations. Eric and Scott Gibson did a wonderful job, and as did Eric's daughter, in just making things work smoothly. And it's really a very wonderful event, because I think in large part it's because the people are picked. The companies that go there are picked. Eric and Scott sort of screen and make sure we vet them through Eric and Scott or whoever is involved, basically. And, nobody knows the players up in Vancouver. Brent Cook told me this one time. Eric, nobody knows the players up in Vancouver better than you. So, knowing the people is as important almost as knowing the project. So, thank you very much for a wonderful event. And I would suggest to all the listeners out there, the next time Eric and Scott Gibson, or Eric, I think you do one in Toronto as well, people should really consider attending these events. Well, in any event, Eric, I want to ask you, we're enjoying this, I don't want to call it a bull market yet. I'm just afraid to call it that. We're certainly enjoying a more favorable, let's say instead of wind at our face, a little bit of a breeze at our back here with the gold markets. Is this thing for real yet, do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm going to call it a bull market. So, yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's not just a matter of, it's not just really, for me, it's not so much how much has the gold price moved. It's more a function of how are the stocks reacting and how are the companies doing in terms of raising money. And there's been a sea change really in terms of how well these stocks are trading, but also the fact that, importantly, obviously, because they're negative cash flow businesses, a lot of companies have been able to raise a lot of money to really step up the exploration. And that's really where the idea for that report was. If you follow early stage exploration companies, I mean, really the make it or break it drill program is usually the first or the second, and new discoveries are what really drives big gains in the market. They're not low risk stocks, and they are stocks that really only work in a bull market. And really, I put that report together because I think we are in one again. And there are companies I was following already, but the one thing, as you said, that they all have in common is they're either drilling now or they will be drilling quite shortly on targets that I think have high potential to really deliver results and really kick off some great moves on these stocks. And that's all right, it's really a bull market phenomenon. Like, if I didn't think it was a bull market, I wouldn't have put together a report like that, because these things don't really work in bear markets.
Yeah, they don't work at all. I mean, in fact, you could have 100 meters of 1 ounce gold and nobody would care. I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration, but
yeah,
it wouldn't.
Liquidity event,
you know,
depth of a
100 meters from surface and nobody would care. No, I suppose they would, even in the worst bear market in history.
If you look at the companies, particularly the ones that are sort of the earlier stage, and I intentionally tried to pick companies that were at different levels. A couple of them, 2 or 3 of them actually have resources already and they're drilling new targets. A couple of them, they're drilling pure new targets, and I wanted people to, you decided how much risk you're comfortable with. But I've noticed with even like an early stage one, like say Colorado, it's at a big move already, and that's purely and simply people anticipating this drill program. And you don't see that in a bear market. You do not see that kind of buying, and there's been a ton of buying on that stock because it's a really hot target.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about that one first. Then, anything more you want to say about that? Colorado. It's Colorado Resources. About 70 million shares out. I saw this morning at about 37 cents Canadian.
Yeah.
That's still a fairly, what's 26 million market cap or something like that. What can you tell us about Colorado? It is a company that I follow in my letter as well.
They are just closing a $5 million placement at 35 cents, which I took some of for the record. They have a new target called Inel. It's in the middle of what's called the Golden Triangle, and this is an area with a lot of very, very large low-grade discoveries, but also a couple of really high-grade ones down the road. And my interest is more in the high-grade targets. They've got a new target called Inel where they've got 4. I won't bore you with the geology, but there's basically 4 parallel targets. They have had some holes in the past. Part of what the planet warming up a bit did for these guys is it's melted all the snow off, and they were probably the first guys that were able to really map this stuff properly. So I think they've got a pretty good handle on what their targets are. The holes are short, 5,000 meters they're talking about, and they now have the budget to do more if they want. It's probably 20 or 30 holes, so there's a lot of shots at this, and it's generated multi-meter, multi-ounce results in the past. I mean, I think they've got a really good shot at some really strong drill holes coming out of this thing. And it's a really strong technical group running it. They really know this area. So I'm totally comfortable with management. I think that's a good one. Another one that'll start drilling, I don't think they'll be drilling for a couple of months. That's Gold Quest. I've, of course, have followed that stock for years. They have a discovery that's going through pre-feasibility now, but they've been doing, for the first time ever, mapping their entire holdings and doing geophysics on their entire holdings. And they've generated a lot of really, really interesting looking targets. And some of the most interesting stuff is at the southern end. They just put out some very high grade results from there. That's right next to Precipitate Gold, which is a company that I was a founder of. I'm still a very big shareholder of, and that I like a lot too. Gold Quest, they had, their official plan is 5,000 meters. They're also in the midst of doing a $5 million bought deal. I think you'll see their program enlarged. I know they already have the approval. Bill Fisher, the president, told me this morning that they've got they have the drill permits already. They just need to do some more IP, and then they're drilling. I don't even know how many it'll be. 4, 6, 8 new targets, and I really like to look at these targets. Plus, the value is underpinned by a 3 million ounce gold resource that I think goes into production. I think if they make a good discovery, the odds of somebody taking Gold Quest out actually go up exponentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think it's interesting to note, Eric, that the Gold Quest mineralization and the trends go right on to Precipitate, which I guess maybe you just mentioned, but it's my understanding also that the mineralization tends to be shallower towards the southern end between, where closer to where Precipitate is.
It seems that way. I mean, certainly as they worked their way south, they were finding a lot more alteration, a lot more mineralization right in outcrop, and that's the working assumption, is that it's just a bit more deeply eroded. Their 3 million ounce discovery, Romero, is totally blind. I don't think it outcrops at all. They basically found it with geophysics, and what they're doing right now is that same form of geophysics they're applying it. And I was happy as a GoldQuest, but a bigger Precipitate shareholder, when their last news release, which had the best results, and these are just grab samples, but they're the highest grade results out of the belt so far. I think it was about 6 ounces. Basically came out of a trend that is, as far as they can tell, the continuation of the Ginger Ridge trend. And Ginger Ridge is a discovery Precipitate made a couple of years ago, and it's a good example of this sort of bull market, bear market thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
They drilled 18 meters of 5 grams 2 years ago, and the market didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
And they made what I think was the right decision, and just said, you know what, let's improve our targets, and let's just save the next drill program for a market that'll care. And that's what they're doing now, is working up other targets. But you'll see them drilling this year too. Now that there's a market that'll actually care if they pull a drill hole like that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Precipitate as well is a company that's on my list as well. Well, another one, Eric, that has some that's a little more advanced, that also has a lot of exploration drill potential, is Pure Gold Mining. Can you talk to us about that for a minute?
Yeah, Pure Gold's an interesting deal. I actually worked. It's a project called Manson, which is a former producing mine in Red Lake, and I'm intimately acquainted with it because I actually worked there for 2 summers in high school. It was bought and refurbished by I think it was Claude 4 or 5 years ago, but it never really got off the ground. Pure Gold bought it. They're drilling it now, and it's got a couple of things going for it. One is that it's fully permitted. The mill is there, the head frame's there, the tailings are there. They would probably need to spend $15 to $20 million refurbishing things, but they're not starting from scratch. They've got a 1 million ounce resource, but the most interesting thing they came up with was most of the past production and most of the resources are in the old workings, not surprisingly, in what's called the Austin tuff. It's just tuff is just a type of volcanic, and there's an adjacent parallel tuff called the McVeigh tuff that had a little bit more shallow production from it more recently. One of the things that Pure Gold has determined with their work over the last year is that the McVeigh tuff is in fact the Austin tuff. They are in fact the same rock unit. It just got folded over, and that's important because it opens up a lot of the whole area down dip from these shallow workings is now sort of open season in terms of a target. They're doing I think about a 15,000 meter drill program right now. They've got a couple of rigs going. That's another company that they also just, this seems to be the number. They just announced a $5 million bought deal too. And that bought deal is what's called flow through up here, which means that money's all going into the ground. I think they're just going to keep drilling and drilling and drilling, and they don't need a lot of ounces because they've got the infrastructure already. If they could put together 500,000 ounces in this McVeigh tuff, I think they're off to the races, and they would probably just make a production decision and keep going.
Right. Well, unfortunately, Eric, we're just about out of time. I should mention there are 2 other names that you have in your report, the Arena Minerals and also West Red Lake gold mines. We should mention that Pure Gold Mining, I think you mentioned, probably is in the Red Lake area.
Yes, it is.
As is West Red Lake, of course, a prolific area of gold production. And Arena Minerals, unfortunately, we're out of time, but what I would like to tell my listeners is that go to HRA Advisory, HRAadvisory.com, and just put your name and email in there, and Eric will send you his report. Not only, you'll get a lot more than what he's giving you here because you'll have some pictures, and if you really care, and Eric says he doesn't want to bore us with the geology. Well, I would tell you that if you're interested in understanding these stories, you want to understand as much as you can about the geology as well. Or if you don't have the patience for it, subscribe to Eric's letter, my letter, some other people as well that dig into the geology and try to explain that to you so you can understand and not just throw darts, because there is a difference between these companies. And, of course, Eric knows the people as well as anybody up there. People, start with the people. If you good, honest, competent, technical people that can raise money, then you have a real chance of making some real money, especially in a bull market. I won't say you have a chance of making any money in a bear market, but in a good market like this, Eric, I think we can have some fun now. Yeah, well,
and people should take your comments to heart. I mean, the truth of the matter is there's probably, I don't know, I've lost track, 2,000 quote-unquote exploration companies out there, and of those, maybe 100 to 200 have good projects and they're run by really competent management. And you want to separate the wheat from the chaff. 90% of these guys you should be ignoring right off the bat. So if
you can subscribe to Eric's letter, and he'll help you right away get rid of and not waste your time with a lot of the useless ones. So thanks so much for being with me, Eric. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Always good to get your insights, and look forward to doing it more often. Thank you so much.